Evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the core where we are getting to the root of it. I am back. I am Alicia Griffin, and we are going to be talking tonight about the soul wounds. Soul wounds. And so if you missed last week, we talked about the gospel and why people are not getting healed. This week we want to talk about the soul. And the soul is broken down into three areas. The soul is broken down into your mind, your will, and your emotions. Today, we're going to be talking about the emotional area when it comes to healing trauma, because a lot of times we don't understand how trauma can invade these different spaces in our life. So today, we're going to be talking about the emotional component to healing from trauma. And so, what is an emotion? What's an emotion? Right? Emotions are a reaction or a response to a circumstance, occurrence, or event, generally originated as a sensation in the body. Okay, it's very important that we understand what emotions are, because when we're talking about the soul, the mind, the will, and the emotions, this makes up your personality. This makes up the character of who you are. So if there is a wound in one particular area or all three, they impact all of who you are. So again, an emotion is a reaction, a response to a circumstance, occurrence, or event, generally originated as a sensation in the body. Now, we want to break down what emotions are versus feelings. And this is important because a lot of times we say, well, I don't feel like it, or I feel this way, or I am having this feeling, but it's very important in the area of emotional intelligence that we are able to navigate and understand emotions versus feelings. So feelings are emotionally influenced, but they derive from what we think, what we perceive about what we feel. So emotions come let me break it down like this. Emotions are a sensation felt in the body. Okay, these are intelligent, these are realistic, these are in the present, these are right now. Emotions is real-time data with what is happening with you or what is going on in your life based on whatever external stimuli is happening around you. Feelings are our mental checks about that emotion. These feelings can vary based on any type of information that our brain has received based on this emotion in the past, based on the emotion right now, or however. But the feeling is not really valid because it is fickle. So we have to understand that emotions are very important. Feelings, though, are not. And I'm going to explain why. So, for example, if you're getting ready to go on a roller coaster ride, right? And you start in your body, right? You can feel in your stomach. And let me just break this down too. Feeling versus feeling. Okay. You have feelings which are based upon your emotions, and you have tangible feeling. I can feel you touch me. These are two different things. So a lot of times, just for example, we say I feel the presence of God. Some people will say, well, that's a feeling. No, I can tangibly feel something happening in my body versus a feeling that I have made up my mind about this emotional response. Two different things. Okay. So think about if you're getting ready to go on a roller coaster ride, and the emotion is there's this pit, this dropping feeling in your stomach, these butterflies, these flutters in your stomach. That's emotion. That's real-time data that something is happening in response to you going on that roller coaster ride. Now this is where the feeling comes in. See, I may take that emotion and I may process it as anxiety or worry or fear, but someone else may take that emotional data. Okay, it says I'm having connection issues. So if you can comment and let me know if you can hear me. Someone else may take that emotional data and process it as excitement. So does it make either one of those emotional data does it make either one of those emotional experiences invalid? No. But the feelings attached to it are separate. The feelings attached to it are different. And so we have to understand that our feelings are based on that emotional response. It is our mental process, our thought process to how we are navigating that particular experience. All right. So emotions are typically in true, real form, but feelings can vary based on what we have told ourselves about the information that our brain has received. Okay. So in the past, right, if you had a bad experience riding a roller coaster, then typically when that emotion comes up again, for you, that feeling will be anxious. But if someone else had a good experience riding on that roller coaster, then when that emotion comes up, their feeling will be excitement. So these feelings are based upon how that experience was navigated and that emotional capacity when you felt it. Now, emotions are necessary because they help us connect experiences. We have to connect to the experiences that are happening. And God gave us emotions. And He gave us emotions so that we could connect to these experiences, but also so that we could connect to Him, so that we could have a process of understanding what He perceives about specific scenarios. Our emotions should be regulated and governed by the Spirit of God. So we should always be in alignment in that area. But when trauma comes into our lives, there becomes a fracture or a breaking in how we navigate emotions, and the emotions become out of whack because they become charged by the feeling. So we allow the feeling to dictate the emotion rather the emotion telling us what we should be doing. And so this is what emotional intelligence does. Emotional intelligence is learning and being able to navigate those emotions and create a proper response. Trauma can make you emotionally numb, or it can make you emotionally sporadic. That's not how we want to be. We want to understand that the emotion is necessary to helping us navigate this experience, but we don't want the emotion to dictate how we feel about what we need to do next. Now, emotional intelligence speaks to the language necessary for us to be able to self regulate. And this is very important because a lot of times we cannot self regulate, we cannot manage our emotions because of those soulish wounds, those infractions or those fractures that happen to us deeply embedded that have not been healed. And when we have these infractions inside of us that have not been healed, it makes it very difficult for us to have an intelligent discussion or response to the emotion. It makes it very difficult to respond to that external stimuli in an intelligent manner. It takes us outside the scope or the realm of where we are supposed to be because our responses are based upon the wound. And this is why healing the wound and even locating the wound is important. Because when the wound is not located, we don't know how to navigate the emotional response, and we will always respond based on our feelings. All right. So understanding that. So how then do we deal this? Do we do this? How do we get to the point where we can emotionally be intelligent? How do we get to the point where the feeling does not tell us how to respond, but rather we can self-regulate by understanding the emotion? You have to be able to look past yourself. You have to be able to see yourself past yourself. And this is the part where we struggle, which is why we need people to come in and help us navigate this space. Because when you look past yourself to see yourself, it's basically you're from the outside looking in. And so while you have created a habit out of this feeling and response to this emotion, you can't see how much it's damaging you, or you can't see how much it's placed you in this cycle. You can't see how much it's impacting the people around you. But someone else on the outside can say, listen, you are repeating this same behavior because you are allowing your feeling in regards to this emotion to dictate how you respond to what is happening around you. And so, how this happens is we have to be willing to receive correction, right? And we have to be willing to receive counsel, and we have to be willing to receive what's the word I'm looking at? Constructive criticism. That's the words I'm looking for. Constructive criticism. We have to be willing to receive that. And this is important. This is why I believe one of the reasons why Jesus taught in parables, because it's very hard for us to receive harsh truths about ourselves when someone directly comes to you and say, hey, I saw this about you and this is what you need to change, and boom, boom, boom. It's very difficult to see yourself that way. But when he taught in the form of a parable, it gave them a outside look to this scenario, and then he brought it back and explained it on how it applied to them. And this is what God expects us to be able to do when it comes to healing these emotional wounds. We have to be able to take outside correction or an outside scope or view of ourselves so that we can see how we're responding to these things. And then we can see where the mending begins to happen. So you have to be able to navigate this trigger. And that's what I want to get to, the trigger. So when you get assistance from other people, this assistance will help you form new habits. It will help you see outside yourself, and it will help you with accountability. The word accountability is a word that has been very difficult for us to chew on. But accountability just means that you're able to account for or be responsible for your actions, decisions, and commitments. Actions, decisions, and commitment. And one of those decisions is healing. And we think that healing is not a choice, but it is. You have to decide that you want to break a habit. You have to decide that you want to see life differently. You have to decide that you don't want these circumstances to continue to define you. So healing is a decision, and sometimes it takes an outside view for us to navigate even this decision to say, I don't want this feeling to dictate my emotion. I don't want this feeling to tell me how I'm supposed to respond in this particular scenario. So we have to understand that healing is decision based. And you may not be able to control your triggers, okay? Because triggers occur when there is a soul wound. So if I have, just say I got cut right here, I got a cut, and this cut never healed properly. You know what? I'm going to use, for example, my shins. So I am a disabled veteran. And when I was in the military, I would run a lot, as we all do. And I was a really good runner. And I got shin splints. And instead of taking time to sit down and let my shins heal, I kept running on the shin splints. And enough running on the shin splints, then they developed stress fractures. And I kept running on the stress fractures because I thought they were just shin splints. And I'm like, I'm going to push through this pain. But it got so bad that I couldn't run. And I was forced to go in and get some bone scans done. And when they did the bone scans, they saw that there were cracks all in my shins. And what happened was that these cracks in my shins, because I kept running on them so long, they did not heal properly. They heal with inflammation. So to this day, my shins are tender because the wounds did not heal. I did not give them the proper time, the proper therapy in order for them to heal. I just kept going on through life through the pain, so that now I have a sensitivity in this area. So if my shins are touched in the wrong way, or if I run for an extended amount of time, I have to deal with that pain. And this is what it looks like when we have trauma and emotional healing, because that pain, that wound has been left untouched for so long, and we've tried to navigate it. There's inflammation in there, and when that wound is pushed, it hurts. And whatever way that wound came in my case, it came in through running. So if I run, then I'll feel that tenderness. But if that wound came in for you through rejection, then anytime you feel the hint of rejection, because it's not healed, you will then be triggered. And when you're triggered, then you're going to respond to that trigger. So however that rejection made you feel, maybe you respond out of anger, maybe you respond out of fear, maybe you shut down and withdraw. Maybe that rejection opened you up for another wound, which was abandonment. Maybe that abandonment opened you up for another wound. And so you see how this thing can be catastrophic when we don't heal these wounds. So we have to know that when these triggers happen, because you can't control the trigger. cannot control that if my child just falls on me and they hit that area where that stress fracture was, if they hit that inflammation, that point of inflammation, it's going to hurt. I can't control that, but I can control how I respond. And this is where we have to get to the point. And this is what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence is controlling how you respond to the trigger, learning how to navigate your response to the trigger. And when you learn how to navigate their response so much, that is where the healing occurs, because healing is a process. In the name of Jesus, I won't have this inflammation forever, but I have had it for a very long time. And so I have had to retrain my body on how to run, on how to stretch, on how to slow down, on how to heal, and be very sensitive about what I'm doing in that area so that I don't further damage. And this is what you have to do when it comes to emotional healing. You have to be sensitive to that area and not allow the trigger to dictate your response. Failure to healing emotionally will result in us lashing out, wanting to punish people, we will put our damaged places in our wounds and project them on other people. And that's what we don't want to do. And so the only way to navigate this place is to have discipline. And the difference between punishment, because that's what we do when we don't heal, we punish people for how they treat us. The difference between navigating punishment and discipline is discipline is solution based. Punishment, when I punish you for how you treated me, you're going to go back and do it again and again and again, because you have not learned from that. Because I am now pushing onto you or projecting onto you what I feel. And now I am making you emotionally unstable. But discipline is boundary based. It teaches us how to have boundaries, what to say, when to say, how to say it, how to navigate it, where to go, when to go, and how to go. And so we have to understand that the discipline and the boundary creates instruction, which creates order, which then takes away that resistance, and it gives us the ability to heal and the people around us the ability to heal too. So discipline teaches us that there are consequences, whether good or bad, consequences to doing something, rather than punishment, which doesn't really translate to anything other than a immediate gratification or a satisfaction that we taught a person a lesson, or they taught us a lesson, or whatever the case may be. Punishment is not lasting, and discipline does. And what punishment does, it restricts God from transforming people. Because if someone is continuing, and I don't even know how I have shifted here, but if someone is continuing to puncture or push on a wound that is inside of you, then you punish them. You restrict God from being able to navigate that space with them or to get through to them in that area, because now you have placed your infraction on them. And so, in summary, because we are at the 18-minute mark, and to summarize, we want to be emotionally intelligent. We want to respond well to our emotions. We do not want our triggers to define us. We don't want our feelings to define us, but we want to understand that having emotions are necessary. They're a gift from God. We are supposed to use them. They are real-time data as to how we are perceiving the world around us, but the feeling is not. The feeling is fickle. The feeling is based on your mental capacity to be intelligent about that emotional response. And so you want to know that I have to respond well to these emotions by not being feeling originated. Okay. So I hope that you are able to understand this and this all makes sense. Please, if you came on later, catch the replay, because it's very important that we know how to navigate these soul wounds. Today we talked about emotional wounds. Next time we'll be talking about the mind, and then we'll be talking about the will. So we want to hit the emotional component first, because they flow into one. How you are navigating your emotions dictates how you process in your mind. How you process in your mind dictates your will and how you make your decisions. So we need to address the emotional component first. And so I hope that you're able to take away from this. If so, please feel free to share, comment, and let me know. And I will see y'all next time. Thank you for tuning into The Core, where we are getting to the root of these things. And I will see you all soon.